Assalamu alaikum, family. You're tuned in to the Sajdah Wendy Muhammad YouTube channel. And today is Sajdah Morning Coffee Talks. And we're going to be talking about business as the activity of life itself. Y'all know where that quote comes from. So be a friend, tell a friend, jump on over, and let's have some fun. Talk about business.
O Allah, guide me among those whom Thou hast guided aright, and preserve me among those whom Thou hast preserved, and befriend me among those whom Thou hast befriended. Bless me in whatsoever Thou dost grant me, and deliver me from the evil of what Thou hast judged. Surely Thou judgest, and none can judge against Thee, and he whom Thou befriendest is not disgraced. Blessed art Thou, O Lord, and exalted be Thee above what they set up besides Thee. I bear witness, nothing deserves to be served besides Thee, and I bear witness that Muhammad is Thy servant and apostle. Amen.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who in my judgment is the master historian, taught us that of all our studies, history is the most attractive, and it is best qualified to reward the researcher. History is most attractive. Why should history be most attractive? Because history is the recorded time of the human family in its struggle to overcome obstacles. There is no life that is without struggle. The Holy Quran teaches us that man, meaning man and woman, is made to face difficulties. And after difficulty comes ease. But it is history that guides us through difficulty. For if you know how people who had difficulty yesterday got through, and if your difficulty is somewhat similar, then today we also can get through if we follow the guidance of history. This is why Carter G. Woodson and many of our black giants fought for black people to know our history. Because in not knowing our history, we don't have a guide. And without a guide, we are lost. No wonder the Bible...
Assalamu alaikum, family. Peace be unto you. You are tuned into the Sajdah channel, and I am your host, Sajdah Wendy Muhammad. I hope everybody is doing okay today. Happy Saturday to everyone. Man, there's so much going on in the world, and I'm not even getting ready to talk about it because it's just so much catastrophic stuff that's being packaged in a way that's got people choosing low vibrations and, just kind of freaking out. So what we're going to do today is we're going to read from my new groundbreaking book, The Art and Science of Business. We're going to talk about a chapter that I titled after a quote from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And that quote is, "Business is the activity of life itself." And you all have heard me use this phrase in different ways when we talked about economic genocide. And I said, what kind of person would be cutting people off from the activity of life itself? And if you know me, I'm really big on really beginning to push towards some type of enforcement of antitrust and anti-competitive legislation that will address people, industries, and systems that prevent millions of people from accessing the activity of life. And it's so interesting now because so many things happen behind the scenes. Those of us that are in business, a lot of times we don't even know anything about. We just out here grinding. But people are out here making phone calls, doing everything they can to prevent you and I from getting customers. And some of those things are illegal. And I've seen it. You may have never seen it. You may know it exists. You may feel like, yeah, there's something there. There's something going on. And but we're going to get to the bottom of it and we're going to address it. But in the meantime and in between time, we have to be in place so that when those of us that are fighting for that and Allah decides to lift that veil, we can slide right into where we're supposed to be. I personally believe that the Black man and woman, both as entrepreneurs and as consumers, are the key to closing the wealth gap in the United States of America. America is falling, we know, based on the prophecy given to us by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We see it happening every single day. Right now, we see the free-for-all going on. You see the BRICS countries and all these other places that are responding to it. And we have to think about, what does that mean for our businesses? And so in the book, we talk about a number of different topics. And this is a very, it's a very deep book, if I would say so myself. And it is one that will encourage us to really study and start to make those tweaks in who we are and in our personality. I believe that there is the making of a new human underway. Now close to 100 years ago, the Nation of Islam introduced into the world, or we were introduced by God, which we then introduced into the world through our resurrection processes, our demonstration, a new way of being, a new way of thinking, a new way of eating, a new way of living, a new way of interacting, a new way of being a civilized person. Because at the end of the day, we have to think about, what kind of legacy are we leaving? What really are we leaving? What is it? And if we don't have anything physical to leave, which a lot of us don't, then how many people have we poured into and left an energetic impression so that as we move on, we leave a piece of ourselves? It's just a different day and time. So I'm subscribing to becoming one of those new humans. And in order for God to save us on this planet, there has to be a genetic change. And that genetic change, whether it comes about from behavior, whether it comes about from food, whether it comes from fasting. You all know that fasting is incredible because it releases our human growth hormones. It releases our own stem cells from our bone marrow, which is why those that fast, or those that take themselves to a fasting state on a day-to-day basis, you see certain things about our skin. You'll see certain things about the way we move and our vibration. But a lot of that has to do with the body rejuvenating itself over and over and over again. You start to get new skin, your organs, everything, changes in the blood. We have to be moving. We have to be working out. We have to be stretching, making sure that, our muscles in our body, especially in our back and our legs and hip, don't become like brittle rubber bands. You know how you have a rubber band, and if it's been sitting there for years, you pull it and it just pops. Most people in America die and have severe injuries from falling. A lot of that is because we're not agile. We're not learning to balance ourselves. We should be taking yoga. We should be doing something that is forcing us to move different sides of our body. Interesting thing about yoga is you start to realize that the left side of your body and the right side of the body seem like two different people. And so that becomes an issue, right? That has a lot to do with balance. So my point with all of that is when it comes to business, learning how to do that in a new way and to tweak those processes as well. So if you go right here to the website, you can get a copy of the book. You'll learn more about some of my upcoming book signing events and things like that. And before I start in on reading this chapter, let me just also, and I always have to level set with this because so many of us nurse on social media. We nurse on the traumas and the things that have happened in our lives. But listen, Allah loves us. And the mere fact that you're here, you're sitting here. I was listening. I was in a meeting yesterday and they were saying, somebody said to me, they said, Sajdah, you're lucky because people don't listen to podcasts. They can't sit there for over an hour. And I said, well, here's the difference. The people who can sit for over an hour and read and study and become a new person are the people that I want to do business with moving forward. Sometimes we have to build ourselves up to that type of discipline. Some of us don't have the discipline to take a class. We don't have the discipline to even think creatively about a solution. We don't sit quietly to do anything. Some of us, as soon as something happens, we just got to figure out how to make a quick, crazy move. Sometimes you need to just sit and be quiet and say, let me think a few chess moves ahead. If I do this, how is it going to impact the people around me? What kind of memories am I creating for someone when I make certain moves in my life? Anyway, let's read from the chapter entitled The Activity of Life. I'm going to start at page 188. And let me know in the chat if you all have any questions. Let me see. I see y'all up in here. See who we got here. Brother Lamont says, Assalamu alaikum and good morning. Wa alaikum salam, sir. Sister Alicia, she says, ASA, happy Saturday. Peace and blessings to everyone. Peace and blessings to you, sis. She says she's glad she was finally able to catch a live broadcast. I'm grateful for you, sis. Sister Monica says, Assalamu alaikum and great Saturday, family. You're loving the new book, Sister Alicia. Thank you, and thank you. We got Sister Imani. I think that's Sister Imani with Imani's Bean Pies. She says, Salam, I should receive my book today or tomorrow. Keep up the great work, sis. All praises due to Allah. Thank you, sis. Mom says, happy Saturday. Happy Saturday to everyone. There's Sister Alita in the house. She says, ASA, Saturday blessings, family. Yes, yes, and yes. Speaking of Sister Alita, we have some really powerful stuff planned for you. I don't know if you guys noticed, go to my social media page, especially on Facebook. I did a post on a brand a product and service that Alita has put together called Club Blue Wealth. And so if you click that link, Letha, if you could put the website to Club Blue Wealth in the chat, that would be great while I'm reading this, and we'll post it so people can go on there and see the great product that you've put together and how they can utilize this to learn. And I think it's fabulous for young people because they get to join a financial literacy country club. That's a whole nother, it's deep. So before I announce all the stuff, make a note because some of y'all might not have the attention span. Tune in tonight, 7 p.m. to the Virtue Magazine podcast. The link is in my social media pages. I'm doing some other interviews this weekend. I don't know when they're going to air, so I'll let you guys know. I'm going to be in Houston next week at the El Dorado Room. I'm going to be doing a book signing and some amazing press there. We have the theatrical Reader's Theater, theatrical interpretation of the encounter between the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Master Farad Muhammad. It's a Reader's Theater production that's happening at the Elijah Muhammad House on the 17th and 18th. So we are working and getting practice and getting ready for that. Let's see. I don't know if that is a link. You may have to put the actual link, Alita, because I don't know if they can grab it from the chat like that. If you put the link, then they can just cut and paste and go on it. Okay. All right. Let's start in the activity of life. Before humanity ever struck metal into coins or inscribed contracts on parchment, business was already alive in the first systems of creation. Nature itself is the original economy. Did you all realize that? Every living organism engages in exchanges of energy, resources, and services, producing, distributing, replenishing, and receiving in a ceaseless cycle. This is not the invention of man, but the divine order set in motion by the Creator. Let me say something about that. I just got this and thought to say this. The whole process of business, producing, distributing, replenishing, receiving, the cycle, it comes from nature. Okay, it is just like the computer is a replica almost of the human brain. This whole cycle of business, as it was originally developed, comes from nature, the cycles in nature. And here's what's interesting. You know, one of the goals of Satan is to make you think that he doesn't exist. And one of the things that they use to make you think that God doesn't exist is money. Money is usually the first place where people lose their religion or their their morality, when they can't think straight because of money. And so what the devil does is, in order to own you, they know that all they got to do is give you money problems. And then all of a sudden you will throw away your religion because the devil has made you think, and I know this is hard conversation for some of y'all, but I'm sorry, it is what it is. The devil has made you think that he doesn't exist and that he is God. And so he's like a clone. He has replicated God. And so we walking around here thinking, God don't love me. I ain't got no money. I'm having money problems. God doesn't exist. What I'm pressing us to do in the book is, when those types of things happen, when those types of thoughts come up, do not release your civility. Do not turn into a savage. Don't do it. Okay? Go deeper into your creativity. We have to be just as creative when it comes to problem solving as we are to making things and inventing. Okay, Minister Farrakhan's statement is a truth observable in every corner of life. Everywhere living systems organize around production, distribution, adaptation, and renewal. What we call business is simply the human translation of the same patterns Allah has embedded in creation. Did y'all realize that? You could talk back to me in the chat. So while we go into business, many of us are just not conscious of this last statement that I made. What we call business, what we're doing when we're going into business, whether we're making cookies, cakes, and pies, whether we fry chicken, whether we have a law firm, whether we are in financial services, wherever we are, many of us are so micro-focused that we don't realize that what we call business is simply the human translation of the same patterns Allah has embedded in creation. This is why most millionaires and billionaires study nature. They study God. I'm going to say it one more time. What we call business is simply the human translation of the same patterns Allah has embedded in creation. In the flowers and bees, we see the principle of value creation. A flower produces nectar not for itself, but as an offering. The bee, drawn to its sweetness, gathers nectar to make honey, sustenance for its hive, and while pollinating the flower and ensuring their survival. This exchange benefits both parties and sustains the ecosystem. Just as ethical commerce should sustain both producer and consumer. So we're talking about the bee, the nectar from the flower, the exchange being a sustenance or sustaining both life forces. This is the activity of life itself. What we call business is simply the human translation of the same patterns Allah has embedded in creation. Okay? Think about in the Holy Quran. I write here that the Quran elevates this image in Surah Al-Nahl, reminding us that the bee's production is divinely inspired and carries healing for mankind. In this light, the bee is a living entrepreneur guided by divine instruction to create, share, and wealth. What we call business is simply the human translation of the same patterns Allah has embedded in creation. In the ant colony, we see supply chain mastery. Every ant has a role. Workers gather, scouts explore, soldiers protect, and the whole community benefits. The Quran in Surah Al-Naml honors the ant's foresight when it warns its colony to take shelter from Solomon's approaching army. This is not just instinct, it is the risk management, logistics, and community protection in action. I'm going to say it again. What we call business is simply the human translation of the same patterns Allah has embedded in creation. In the peacock's display, we see branding. Its feathers, they're not vanity, but a strategic presentation of health, strength, and unique value to attract the right mate. In the same way, authentic branding in business is a deliberate, values-based display that draws the right customers, partners, and opportunities. Spiritually, the peacock's beauty has been seen across cultures as a symbol of immortality, divine beauty, and the all-seeing eye of awareness, reminding entrepreneurs that excellence in presentation is a spiritual discipline as much as a market strategy. Y'all know what I'm about to say, right? What we call business is simply the human translation of the same patterns Allah has embedded in creation. Why do I keep repeating that? I'm repeating it continuously so that you can stop thinking that these people are gods and that they got the lock on business. We're so brainwashed. And we're like, well, if you don't have a job, then it's the end of the world. Listen, some people can't get jobs. Some people can't keep jobs. Some people are not employable. Some people don't have advanced degrees and they're not able to even make enough money to sustain themselves. This is why you see us in the Muslim community. Many of us have numerous things that we're doing, numerous revenue streams. Again, what we call business is simply the human translation of the same patterns Allah has embedded in creation. Let's go on to the next page. Even the octopus teaches the entrepreneur. With its ability to change color, adapt instantly, and solve complex problems, it is nature's innovator. The lesson is simple. In both business and creation, survival belongs to those who can adapt with speed and creativity. In business and in creation. I don't know how many of y'all watch sometimes I watch like animal programs. I'm in love with animal programs. I'm watching the tiger mom go take the baby fox cubs, and I'm over there going, just take one, don't take all her babies. But I love it because this is what inspired what I wrote based on the minister's quotation. I'm going to say this last part again. Both business and creation, in both business and creation, survival belongs to those who can adapt with speed and creativity. Beneath the forest floor, vast networks of fungi weave the wood wide web, allowing trees to share nutrients, water, and signals to protect one another. This invisible cooperation mirrors the cooperative economics that have sustained communities for generation. I call the network of wood in the forest floor the wood wide web. Let me say this again. What we call business is simply the human translation of the same patterns Allah has embedded in creation. And towering above the ground, trees. Trees themselves are a living blueprint for divine business. The Quran likens a good word to a good tree, deeply rooted. Deeply rooted. Deeply rooted, branches stretching toward the heavens, producing fruit in every season by the permission of its Lord. In African cosmology, the baobab tree, have you all ever seen a baobab tree? Look it up. It's really cool. The baobab tree is revered as the tree of life for its provision of food, water, shelter, and medicine. In business terms, the roots are our purpose and divine guidance. The trunk is our integrity and systems. The branches are our expansion. The leaves are our capacity to draw in light and resources. And the fruit is the value we produce for others. A healthy enterprise, like a tree, feeds and shelters more than itself. What we call business is simply the human translation of the same patterns Allah has embedded in creation. Seen through this lens, business is not simply buying and selling. See, because we are worshiping the wrong God, because in the pursuit of money, what the devil does is tries to make us think that God doesn't exist. Because a lot of us are praying for money and then the money don't come. So we start to lose faith in Allah. A lot of times if we're praying for something and somebody's actually sabotaging us, and they're usually sabotaging us because they're trying to make us think that God doesn't exist. Woo, excuse me. But, what we have to realize is that we have to go bigger than that so-called barrier between us and what we want. God is bigger than you. God is bigger than me. God will put systems and circumstances in place that you won't be able to get out of or do nothing about. Thank you, Brother Lamont. So, seen through this lens, business is not simply buying and selling. It is the stewardship of life's exchanges. The divine law is clear. When we create with intention, protect our resources, adapt to change, present ourselves with excellence, and cooperate for mutual benefit, we are participating in the same economy, the Creator embedded in nature. That's what I want you to take from this chapter and from this talk today. When the minister talks about business is the activity of life itself. In this divine economy that our ancestors carried into every chapter of Black economic history in America. Talk to me and let me know if you have any questions on that. Do you now, or can you now see that business is the activity of life? And again, reading that sentence again, what we call business is simply the human translation of the same patterns Allah has embedded in creation. You have to continue to keep that and think of that as your theme in business. Because the challenge in the business world is that there's so many methods, there's so many systems, there's so many ways to do this, there's so many regulatory issues, there's so many laws, there's so many statutes that sometimes we get confused, and that law, that statute, that becomes the God of the situation, which is important because you got to know how to follow regulation. But in the back of your mind, you have to always remember that for every problem, there is a creative solution. There is a creative solution for every problem or every challenge that may come up in your business endeavors. Every challenge. All right. The story of Black business in America is one of resilience, creativity, and unbreakable spirit in the face of systemic barriers. Even in the era of slavery, entrepreneurship emerged as both a survival strategy and an act of resistance. Many enslaved Africans were skilled artisans, barbers, blacksmiths, seamstresses, and cooks, professions rooted in an African tradition where craftsmanship carried social status. Despite being denied legal ownership, many engaged in informal economics, bartering goods and services, or hiring out their own labor to earn and sometimes save money toward freedom. So you know how a lot of times you're reading, you'll say, oh, they were able to buy their freedom, or they bought their children or something. A lot of times people are given the opportunity, or were given the opportunity, to hire themselves out. So they may have lived on a plantation. They may have been enslaved and assigned to a master. But then to make extra money, that slave owner may have allowed them, if they had a certain skill, to hire themselves out. Now, you know, you don't get to keep all the money. So if you are a blacksmith or you shoe horses, they may say, okay, you create in the barn this little business, and not only do you shoe our horses, but people from the town will come to you to help shoe their horses. And you get to keep some of the money. I'm going to keep most of it. This is the master talking. And so a lot of times this happened. This was very common in that the enslaved person would hire themselves out, or the slave owner per se would set up a business on the plantation or somewhere nearby, and running that business per se would be part of their responsibilities. I hope this makes sense. Alicia said, this is so good. Thank you, sis. All right. So that's how a lot of times people hired themselves out. So there was the slavery, the can't see morning and can't see night. And then some had to go afterwards to trade. Some of them had little gardens outside of their little houses, and they would, trade food with one another. These skills, farming innovations, tool making, textile production, culinary arts, they were not born in bondage, but carried from the African soil. There's a book that I keep saying that I used it a lot in putting this together, but I keep saying that we're going to do a whole series of book series on it. I'll put that together. Where she does a study, the author does a study and shows that many of the freed slaves went back to the profession per se that they were doing before they were actually enslaved, even if they had no conscious memory of it. Fascinating. And you may say, well, what, how is that? How is that even possible? Primarily because it's in the memory, it's in the epigenetics. It just goes to show you, to me, what it proved is that a lot of what we're doing right now, so a lot of what I'm doing and what I could be doing, this is likely not new. There's somebody in my ancestral line, whether it's on the maternal or paternal side, that did something similar or had some of the same vibratory dominant portions of their personality that I personally have today. And the same is true with you as well. But when we get pinched off from our history, this is what oftentimes prevents us from being able to break prophecy and even break curses. Because you can't break a curse by just saying, I now break this curse. You have to break the curse through patterns of behavior. And so what makes it a curse is that it's somewhere back here in the programming of the mind of the person, and it's causing you to do certain things that create the conditions so that the virus or the sickness or the illness can live. Right? It's just like with the COVID virus. The COVID or coronavirus, but during COVID-19, it knew how to make you do what it needed you to do in order for it to survive. So it knew if you laid around, if you didn't eat, if you slept all the time, it could just grow and grow and grow. But it knew if you got out there and you got your heart moving and you exercised and you did certain things, you would eventually kill it or break the viral or break the curse pattern. And you had to respond with creativity and speed, just like in nature. Same thing with curses and family curses. If you don't make sure that you are changing your behaviors, then whatever's in that epigenetic coding, you're going to walk right into it. You're going to walk right into it. This is why when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan gives us behavioral changes, ways in which we should be thinking and behaving ourselves, is so that we are breaking patterns that exist in our epigenetics that we know nothing about. That's how you break a curse. You got to change the pattern. Because the curse is like a virus. Think of it. It's going to force you to behave in a way that allows it to grow and expand. So if you keep engaging in certain behaviors and it's going to make you really good at it, then it's going to just expand. It's going to be able to infect you even deeper. It's going to infect other people around you. It's going to infect every single thing you touch, and it's going to be able to live beyond your life. You don't do this by saying it. This words don't teach. It's your actions. What are the patterns that exist in your life? What are you doing on a consistent basis that become the vibration and the producer of results in your life? What is your pattern? See, if you have a person in front of you who understands patterns, you can't lie and say, this is what I do every day. They already know what you do because you can tell what a person's habits are by looking at them, by spending time with them. All right. After emancipation in 1865, these abilities burst into the open. Freed people transformed skill into enterprise, opening shops, providing services, forming the first Black-owned insurance companies, newspapers, and benevolent societies. Communities built their own markets, commercial districts, and financial institutions, practicing a kind of cooperative economics that mirrored the fungal networks under the forest floor. All right. Why is this important? Because this is something we did naturally. It was a natural thing that came to us. I'll say this to you too. I was in a meeting yesterday and one of the brothers said, you know, Black people support Black people. See, it's us Black corporate job-minded people in those environments that hate on each other. Because we looking at this person and saying how they get this, and looking at that person and how did they get there. But if you got a product or service and you into what our hood, or you go to our festivals, we support. This is why people want to vend at Black festivals, because we support each other. Don't let nobody tell you. Don't let nobody buy you into the God of Black on Black hate. And if you are finding yourself running into people who are haters, just move around. Make sure you're not perpetuating it, and just move around. Go somewhere else. Go somewhere else. Because we have not survived on this planet. Listen, if we were haters and dealing in just consistent hateful information as a people, hateful vibration, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be inventors. We wouldn't be cultural icons. There's hate that exists, but if that was the overall vibration of our community, that's a unsustainable vibration. So you want to tap into the love of Black people because we're loyal? We'll do business with each other. We just got to drop all this corporate stuff. Some of us got all this brainwashing in us, whether it's from a corporate job, or because we went to the military, or because we took this kind of class. You just got to drop all that. Because at the end of the day, Black people support Black people. It's real talk. I'm trying to tell you. Ask anybody who has gone to a Black flea market and sold t-shirts. Ask anybody that used to go to the Black expos back in the day. You know how many millionaires were made at Black expos? How many people made hundreds of thousands of dollars? These were Black people vending at Black expos. We do support one another. We like our products and services. We like each other. That's a whole nother conversation. Anyway, during the Great Migration, when more than 6 million African Americans moved from the rural South to northern and western cities, Black businesses expanded to meet the needs of new urban populations. Insurance companies, newspapers, funeral homes, beauty salons, retail shops became community anchors. These entrepreneurs were not merely filling gaps, they were building parallel economies in bounded markets created by segregation. Places like Chicago's Bronzeville became the hubs of cultural and economic power. And in every city, you'll hear people say, man, on this street, there used to be all these Black-owned businesses. There used to be all this or that. What I'm taking us back to is the root of how we developed that stuff and why we developed that economy, so that we don't forget and we're reminded that we can, and more than likely we'll do it again. Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Okay, I'm gonna keep going. But as the Industrial Revolution and wars of the 20th century drew Black workers into wage labor, a shift occurred. Did you all realize that prior to the Industrial Revolution, Black people could not earn an hourly wage, and that it was the meat packing houses that was among the first industries that gave Black people hourly wages. Interesting, right? It was the incorporation of Black people through the hourly wage system that sparked the Industrial Revolution. The history and development and strength of the American economy has always been on the backs of Black people. First, us working for free labor as enslaved people. Then you say, oh no, y'all not going to have y'all own economy. We're going to burn down all y'all cities. And then the billionaire magnates said, all right, we're going to offer them an hourly wage. So if they move up here up north, you work for 10 hours, you get such and such per hour. And then we're going to provide food for you. And we're going to create canned and fast food. So you don't have to go home and grow vegetables. You can eat this quick TV dinner, this quick thing. And that way you can get right on back to work. We're going to build these apartments all around the industrial complex, these housing projects. So you can just go up in there into your little place, sleep, and then get on back to work. And so we're going to create this entire lifestyle around commerce. But it was offering. You know what? I need to do a study to see how much money the Great Migration made for the industrial business complexes. Because it was us running up north for an hourly wage. See, we were tired of sharecropping, where you made money by the pound or how many pounds of wood or crops you turned in. And then whoever you were sharecropping with, they stole part of your money. It sounded good to us to say, look, let's go up north. Let's work in these packing houses. Let's go into the automobile factory plants and just get an hourly wage. We needed a break. We were tired. And some of us they started to offer certain things and make certain things seem like it was a necessity because they was making us sick with the food. They was like, well, you need health care benefits. See, that's why what President Obama did with the marketplace insurance companies was so revolutionary, because you could be an individual. You didn't have to go get a job. It's still in place, but it's just they're slowly fading it away. But you didn't necessarily have to get a job to be able to have insurance. See, they made insurance so expensive prior to the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare that the company you were working with had to do a matching contribution in order to make it affordable. So they took $100 a month out of your insurance, and then they paid $100. And then they made you think that the only way you're going to be able to get insurance is you got to work for me. Because the insurance companies, when you went to them as an individual trying to get insurance, they said, we only offer that rate if you come through an employer. So this also, because now we're starting to get sick, we're starting to throw away our naturopathic medicinal things that we learned down south, and we need insurance. And then President Obama said, okay, well, let's make the Affordable Care Act. Let's make it affordable. You can go out on the marketplace and get insurance, and that $124 that they was taking out of your check, you can now pay that yourself and own your own insurance policy. So you ain't got to just, suck up to no job just to get some insurance. But that old school thinking was there because that's how they set it up during the Industrial Revolution. So there were benefits for working for certain companies. Not only did you get an hourly wage, you said, all right, I can get insurance because I'm getting sick because they got me eating all this messed up food and I don't have a balanced quality life anymore because they're paying me. And the more I work, the more they pay me. They give me time and a half. I got to just keep working. So now I'm just this sick person. I ain't got time to go to school. I ain't got time to take care of my family. My family's falling apart. So while I'm over here at work, they living in these housing projects that they built for us that are close and nearby the factory. And then, oh my goodness, they're going to introduce crack cocaine and all these other drugs. And guess what's happening now? Now they're saying those jobs don't exist. But a lot of us still function within the mindset of this industrial revolutionary setup. And so that is a lot of times we hear about them saying, oh, they don't want everybody to have health care, and the issue is health care for all, and they don't want that. The real reason is that the billionaire corporate owners who have lobbyists are saying, no, we do not want them to be able to get insurance at the same rate that they could get if they work for us, because what that means is that one of the benefits and one of the main reasons why people think they got to keep a job goes away. Right? Because if I'm online making money, I'm an independent contractor and I'm paying $80, $150 a month. I'm paying the same thing that might be deducted from my check. Then I don't necessarily need them anymore. That's one of the number one reasons why people stay in a job that is unhealthy for them. Sister Alicia said, yes, they were tired of how they were treated in the South. My father's family was from Alabama and my mother's family was from Georgia, and both families built a life in Ohio. So they were tired. All right. Let me keep going. We could get through this really quickly. We got 2 minutes left. I'm gonna finish this last paragraph. But as the Industrial Revolution wars and wars of the 20th century drew Black workers into wage labor, a shift occurred. The promise of steady pay in steel mills, auto plants, and meatpacking houses was appealing and often necessary, but it began to erode the entrepreneurial base. Skills once used to sustain community-owned businesses were redirected into white-owned corporations. The circulation of the Black dollar, once as many as 36 to 100 times before leaving the community, collapsed to mere hours after integration, as customers gained access to white-owned businesses and many Black business districts withered. The latter half of the 20th century brought deindustrialization, job loss, and a stubborn racial wealth gap. Many of the manufacturing jobs that had pulled Black families into the middle class disappeared, and the business ecosystems that might have absorbed the shock had already been weakened. All right. This is what we just talked about. Yet the divine law of business as life persisted. By 2022, over 3.1 million Black-owned businesses operated in the United States, a testament to enduring creativity and resilience. These enterprises are concentrated in healthcare, professional services, construction, and personal care, and they are growing faster than the national average, particularly in the digital economy. But persistent gaps in capital access remain, with Black entrepreneurs denied financing at nearly twice the rate of their white counterparts. Just as in nature, survival in the modern economy requires adaptation, innovation, and cooperation. The bee, the ant, the peacock, the octopus, the tree, and the unseen fungal network still have much to teach us. For the Black entrepreneur, the lessons are clear. Create value, protect and manage resources wisely, present with excellence, adapt quickly, and build networks that sustain the whole. When Minister Farrakhan says business is the activity of life itself, he is calling us back to a divine rhythm that has sustained creation since its beginning. Our economic story in America, from bondage to boom, from migration to modern markets, is proof that even in the harshest conditions, life finds a way to produce, to trade, to grow. We are heirs of that resilience and participants in that sacred economy. To do business with this understanding is to see ourselves not as mere profit seekers, but as stewards of a divine exchange, rooted in purpose, branching toward opportunity, and bearing fruit for generations to come. All right, family. I hope this encourages you to go out and grab the book. Okay. Here's the website right here, artandscienceofbusiness.com. Go and grab the book, grab the book. I believe this book is a game changer. I'm so grateful that this information came through me and was able to be reduced here on paper. And there's so much more. That was a chapter read from the chapter entitled The Activity of Life. All right. Okay, family. So tune in tonight to the Virtue Magazine podcast. I think the link is on my social media pages. Thank you, sis. Sister Alicia said this book is a game changer. All praises due to Allah. Support the movement. Thank you, Sister Monica. Absolutely awesome. She says, support the movement. Y'all know ain't none of this free. Get the book. Go to Cash App. Make a donation. Sajdah Enterprises. Get the book. Make a donation. All right. Support. This is what we got to do. We got to build this ecosystem. Some more support, promote, all of that. Okay, family. What else? Houston next week and the play. Okay. Just follow me on social media. I try to keep posting all this stuff so that you all can keep up and keep going and we can build this economy. All right. Thank you for the bullseye, Sister Alita. Appreciate you. I will see you all, inshallah, tonight. Don't go anywhere. I got 2 quick commercials to show you. And then we out of here. Make it a great day. And remember, it's not personal. It's vibrational. See you soon, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who in my judgment is the master historian, taught us that of all our studies, history is the most attractive, and it is best qualified to reward the researcher. History is most attractive. Why should history be most attractive? Because history is the recorded time of the human family in its struggle to overcome obstacles. There is no life that is without struggle. The Holy Quran teaches us that man, meaning man and woman, is made to face difficulties. And after difficulty comes ease. But it is history that guides us through difficulty. For if you know how people who had difficulty yesterday got through, and if your difficulty is somewhat similar, then today we also can get through if we follow the guidance of history. This is is why Carter G. Woodson and many of our black giants fought for black people to know our history. Because in not knowing our history, we don't have a guide. And without a guide, we are lost. No wonder the